Hey everyone, welcome to That's Peculiar. I'm Nathan.
I'm Andra.
And Andra's got an episode for you today. But before we got started, I actually wanted to share of course it's not working when I need it to. I wanted to read some of the comments that we've received from some of our listeners.
Is it still not working?
Of course not. Why would it work when I want it to? I had just had it pulled up and everything. This is killing me. In the meantime, I guess Andrea's got a fun fact.
Yeah, I was like, I could do mine first. So my fun fact is chainsaws were first invented for childbirth.
I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
For real?
Yeah, they were developed in Scotland in the late 18th century to help aid and speed up the process of symphysiotomy. I looked it up.
I don't know.
It's widening of the pubic cartilage and the removal of laden bone during childbirth.
I'm sure.
Yeah, when I read it, it made me cringe a little bit, so I just wanted to make you cringe too.
I feel like they used it one time and went, nope, that's not going to work.
Maybe. This will be great for murdering people in horror films, though.
Yeah, it would be for that. And then, of course, also, cutting down trees. I hate thinking like, hey, this is great for cutting down trees after we created it to help someone give childbirth. Ugh.
Yeah. So I actually forgot that it's meant for trees. Like, I was... in that moment, you said and trees, and I was like,
oh yeah,
it's not for human bodies.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All
Jack's
right.
sister is actually, she did a chainsaw certification.
Do you have to get certified for a chainsaw to use on babies?
I think especially to use on babies, but...
you have to get chainsaw certified for... I thought you could just use a chainsaw to cut down a tree.
I think if you want to do it for work, you should probably be certified.
Interesting. Huh. Very interesting. Okie pokey. So I do have some comments I was able to pull up. Oh, the first one is from the episode The Ghost Ship Mary Celeste. I don't personally remember the story that we were talking about. Maybe you do. This is from XX Red Queen XX. It says, love the Starbucks story. Hilarious. Do you remember what we were talking about? No?
Yeah. You went with Ross?
Did I?
I don't know.
Hey, honestly, I don't remember the story.
I have a vague memory of you sharing a Starbucks story.
I know that we've talked about us working at Starbucks, but that's pretty much all I got.
I don't think that was it. I think you guys went to Starbucks or I went to Starbucks. Either way.
All right. And then this next one is from I'm going to butcher this. The the Swedish lake monster.
Yeah.
You remember how to say that one? No, okay. She said, this is
steer her gear.
Yes, there we go. She said, the same XX Red Queen XX. She said, LOL, moist. Got me. That's a good start to an episode. I love that one.
Do you remember that one?
Yes,
because it's Lindsay, right? That hates moist. So we said moist 12 times.
So this one is from Jay Savolino. We know who this is from.
Yeah.
Love the superstition episode, guys. Would love to hear an episode on Atlantis. Hope to hear more superstition ones soon.
That's from Jack, for anyone who doesn't know. But it's hilarious that we still have not done. He has been my top supporter to do Atlantis from day one.
That's so funny.
Guess what I have not done?
The Atlantis episode.
Yeah, I just like to keep him on his toes.
Okay, so then we got a couple, but I'm going to read one more. This is from the Patty Hearst episode, and it's from E. Peller 2. It said, that silence after Andra said, Patty was seen robbing a bank was so loud.
The silence was loud.
I laughed when I read that one because I'm like, it was so loud after she said, Patty Hearst was seen robbing a bank. Where was, what? She just got kidnapped.
I know. It was very dramatic. That story, I think, is still my funnest story that I've researched, because I just ended up in down a rabbit hole of like, what the fuck?
Hold on.
Yeah.
I love it.
Huh?
Love.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Any new news on that while we're like doing it?
New news on what?
The account? Any updates?
We had a record day of plays yesterday. There was over 20 plays for our podcast in one day, which is amazing. Yeah. We still have 20 followers, and we are at, I think, like 350 total plays across all episodes.
So that literally could mean that just like all of our followers listen to one episode.
Whatever, I'm here for it.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, we love it. Okay, Andra has got our episode today, and I'm going to let her get us started.
Today's episode was inspired by a Nirvana song. The song goes, Frances Farmer will have her revenge on Seattle.
How do you have an episode that's inspired by a Nirvana song?
Well, that song was inspired by our episode topic, Frances Farmer.
Okay, I've never really listened to Nirvana, so
just maybe take that out of this episode.
That I haven't listened to Nirvana. Sorry.
I'm just kidding. So Frances Farmer is our topic. Let's just dive in, actually. We'll just get into it. Frances Farmer was born September 19th, 1913 in Seattle, Washington. Mm-hmm. Farmer had an older sister, Edith, an older brother, Wesley, and an older half-sister, Rita, conceived during her mother's first marriage. Before the birth of Wesley and Edith, Lillian, her mother, had given birth to a daughter who died of pneumonia in infancy. Yeah. When Frances was 4 years old, Farmer's parents separated and her mother moved. I know, I said farmers and then I was like, that won't make sense. And her mother moved with the children to LA, where her sister, Lillian's sister, Zella, lived. I'm just making sure you have this right. But basically, the mom took the children to LA because her sister lived there.
Yes.
Yeah. In early 1925, the family moved north to Chico.
I lived in Chico.
What do you think of it? So quickly move out of it.
I actually liked it when I was there. It wasn't bad, but it's kind of not as good as it was when I was there.
Right.
I mean, it was small. There wasn't a lot to do, honestly, but it's a college town, and I had just turned 21, so it was at the bar, just drinking,
super fun. Yeah. So they moved to Chico, where Lillian pursued a career in nutrition research. Shortly after arriving in Chico, Lillian decided that caring for her children was interfering with her ability to work. So the children's aunt drove them back to Albany, Oregon.
Oh my God.
Where they boarded a train back to Seattle to live with their dad. I'm just giving a little family history so you understand. It's not like...
That's messy.
Yeah. Frances's life, it was inconsistent at home, and it had a notable effect on her. And upon returning to Seattle, she recalled, and this is a quote, "In certain ways, the train trip represented the end of my dependent childhood. I began to understand that there were certain things one could expect from adults and others that one could not expect. Being shunted from one household to another was a new adjustment, a fresh confusion, and I groped for ways to compensate for the disorder. So the next year, her mother returned to Seattle after her home in Chico burned down. Yeah, this mom is nuts. In Seattle, the family shared a household, but Lillian and Ernest remained separated despite his attempts to repair the marriage. In my eyes, I just think Lillian's like the hot mess, wants to leave, and is just kind of doesn't care.
Yeah, she's like, I'll just figure it out. I'll start over.
Yeah. So Lillian and Ernest remained separate despite his attempts. In the fall of 1929, yeah.
My question is, so they didn't get a divorce during this time?
No. I said she separated from him and moved to LA.
So she literally was like, I'm taking the kids. We're still married, but I'm getting out of here.
And then, just kidding, I took the kids on a whimsy. Let's send them back.
Okay, now you can have them, but I'm going to stay in Chico.
Yeah.
Oops, my house burnt down. I'm coming back to Seattle.
Maybe she would have realized that was some Bridget karma that she deserved. Lillian moved to a cottage in Bremerton, Washington, while the children, I don't know if I said that right, while the children remained with their father. Here is a quote from an article written about Farmer, and we can link it. Farmer was born in 1913 in Seattle to the tempestuous and public-seeking Lillian Farmer, a woman who had a flair for the dramatic. This is, she, in parentheses, it says, she once entered the office of her estranged husband, Ernest, who was late with child support payments, took out a gun, and fired a round of blanks directly at him.
Oh my God, she's insane.
Yeah. Then the quotes of Lillian's motto, apparently this is a quote, she used to tell them, make up your own mind. That was her motto for her children.
Make up your own mind?
Yeah, who were taught independence of thought, but given little demonstration of affection.
I don't like this woman.
Yeah, neither do I. I just wanted to really put this in here because I think part of the reason why
Frances turns out the way she does.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of Lillian. So the same article that describes how Lillian, Frances's mother, didn't really show her attention also talked about how easy it was to say that her life was not ideal, but then it went into what she did with it. So in 1931, while a senior at West Seattle High School, Farmer entered and won $100 from the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards.
Wow.
It's a writing contest sponsored by Scholastic Magazine.
Oh my God, Scholastic is so old.
Yeah, and it was with her controversial essay called God Dies. If you read it, it's a little dark, but I mean, it won. So it's very good. After graduating from high school, Farmer enrolled at the University of Washington, initially majoring in journalism. She worked various jobs to pay her tuition, including as an usher in a cinema, a waitress, a tutor, a laborer in a soap factory, and singing waitress at Mountain Rainier National Park.
Wow.
This is also mentioned, she did not grow up rich. She grew up actually pretty poor. I mean, the mother shot blanks at the husband for late child support. So, During her sophomore year, Farmer became involved with the university's drama department productions. And then during her final year of college in 1935, Farmer won a subscription contest for the leftist newspaper, The Voice of Action. That's the newspaper's name. The first prize was a trip to the Soviet Union. Farmer accepted the prize, so she got the first prize in it, despite her mother's strong objections, so that she could see the pioneering Moscow Art Theater.
That's so weird. First prize, go to the Soviet Union.
Okay, so I'm glad it's not just me. Like, I also thought it was a little strange that they went to the Soviet Union, but it does sound like a pretty good... I think it's to look at the art and everything.
I can see that, but like, still, we were very much against like the Soviet Union when they were there. What? We're just sending... Go ahead. That's like us sending someone to North Korea as a winner of something. To me,
were we against them in 1931?
Pretty sure that we did not like what they were doing.
I don't know. Either way, she went... The mother was against it. So I do think maybe you're right. I think at this point, it maybe wasn't so black and white, but there was maybe a lot of people that did not like the Soviet Union. I do also want to say they mentioned this is a leftist newspaper. So this isn't when it was flipped, but maybe that was the viewpoint then, and they were just looking at the art. Maybe. In this trip, that article about Frances that we'll link says Frances met an older Englishman named John Mackenzie, who had a profound effect on her, but who is still little discussed in all of her dissections of her life. She fell in love with him very intensely in a way that a first love is, and met with him in various cities, but then he put her to a cruel test. This is according to Frances. He had a friend approach her and wine and dine her. Then this friend got her into bed, and Farmer felt very bad and guilty about this afterwards. But when she met with Mackenzie, he coldly broke things off with her and told her why.
He planned it? Yeah. Oh my God, what a jerk.
So this, they say, added to her self-loathing, which was created by her mom. But then on top of that, this happened of her first love. A quote by her said, "In retrospect, John Mackenzie was the most significant love relationship of my life. But I found out that even if he desires it, nobody dies of a broken heart except in opera." So basically, he cut it off before she could hurt him.
Yeah.
Farmer began acting in stage productions while a student at the University of Washington. After graduating, she began performing in stock theater before signing a film contract with Paramount Pictures on her 22nd birthday in September 1935. It was not just her flawless looks. Like, she's gorgeous. Like, she literally has the most perfect eyebrow I've ever seen. The description of her is like unreal sculpture of her brow. But her voice was like a very like low kind of voice. Yeah. And she was gorgeous. And people found her to be like unsettlingly beautiful. Like, it was just, she was so beautiful. And then she had that voice. And it was just like, wow. She made her film debut in a B film called Too Many Parents in 1936. After completing it in February 1936, Farmer wed fellow Paramount contract player Wycliffe Anderson, who had changed his name to William Anderson, and later to Glenn Erickson, and finally to Leif Erikson after the Viking explorer.
Why you gotta change your name so much, sir?
I don't know. I'm just gonna mention this because I did this episode earlier today, and then I was on Instagram.
Happy Leif Erikson Day?
Do you know who Sheena Shea is?
No.
It's a Vanderpump Rules reality star. I'm just gonna mention this, but don't even. In the Instagram post I saw, like, people were asking her why she still has her ex-husband's last name Shea. And she was talking about how, like, as a woman, you know, it's already hard to, like, come into the workforce, and then, like, basically you're showcasing your failed marriages as you, like, change your name, and it's really difficult. And then it doesn't follow, like, so I understand, except this motherfucker changed his name 5 times.
Yeah, that part.
But there you go, Sheena Shea.
I'm sorry. You want me to change my name again? It's expensive, and it takes time and a lot of paperwork, and then
blah. I get it, but he did it. So she got married to him, fellow Paramount contractor. Like, it doesn't... She's a pretty private person.
Leif Erikson.
So, who was originally Wycliffe. Anyways. Followed by another B picture called Border Flight. She was given, followed by the B. I said that weird. Anyways, she was given the lead role opposite Bing Crosby in the musical Western Rhythm on the Range in 1936. Paramount Studio had the head Aldolf Zukor phone her, and he told her now that she was a rising star, she'd have to start acting like one. Farmer was resistant, however, and spent most of her time at her home in Laurel Canyon with Erickson, forgoing invitations to Hollywood parties and events in attempts to make her more marketable, according to Paramount. Paramount chose to brand her in the press release as the star who would not go Hollywood, focusing on her eccentric fashion taste. So basically, she said, I don't want to go to those stupid parties. I'm not going to look the way you want me to.
I'm not going to act the way you want me to. I'm just going to...
Yeah.
And they were like, fine, we'll roll with it.
I think very grudgingly, it seemed, but yeah. She had many other opportunities that you can look up, but she had a lot of mixed reviews by critics and the people that were on set with her. There are quotes about Frances ranging from the best actress they'd ever worked with to being an opinionated and filthy-tempered woman.
I feel kind of like Katherine Heigl gets the same treatment.
It's funny. I actually compared her to Blake Lively later.
Oh, really? Because I was thinking Katherine Heigl, because Katherine Heigl has been said to be really difficult to work with, but she's a great actress. Yeah. But in her defense, she said she's only difficult because she doesn't want to get mistreated because she's a woman.
I think there was something I read about her back when she was in Grey's Anatomy. I don't think she still is. I don't know.
Oh, no. She's long gone from Grey's Anatomy.
I read that's where it started, is she refused to accept an award for best actress in Grey's Anatomy because she did not feel that she was best actress. She felt like she was only getting the award because she was a pretty blonde or something like that.
I have not heard that one.
Look it up. I don't know if it's truth or not. I feel like I remember reading that, and then that's when everybody started saying she was terrible to work with. Yeah, but I also, to be fair, have not seen her in a hot minute in anything. So maybe she really is super hard to work with.
Yeah, maybe. Or she just has a specific idea of how she wants to be worked with, and it's very similar to that of her male counterparts, and they don't want to deal with that. I don't know.
Yeah. So that is kind of how I do view Frances Farmer. Diving into her story, I believe she may have just been opinionated and possibly trying to be a perfectionist. And then trying to earn the love of her mom, I think, is part of it. She had said in an article that part of the only reason why she went to Hollywood in the first place was to try and get their family into a situation where they didn't have to work for money all the time. And then at this time, as we're talking about, it's the 30s, they were quick to pointing out women being crazy if they showed too much emotion. So I just want to mention that as well.
Yeah.
If they had they basically wanted them doped up on drugs and alcohol, and then they showed anything, they were like, here's more dope and alcohol. Here you go. It also seemed she would go into great lengths to develop a character at all costs. She did not care. She also did not care how she looked, but she did care about how she did on the performance. She got into trouble for many reasons, and not least of them is that Farmer wanted to bring some reality to her characters. An example of this is when she had gone to a red light district to observe prostitutes and how they picked up men in her preparation for playing Lada.
Oh my.
Yeah. She was very enthused by method acting and by the group theater, and her work as Lada is so specific that it does seem to suggest a real life model for inspiration. So, it's a performance. She did really good on it. But yeah,
method acting can be very dangerous, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can say that I do think that could be the same for this, but the most dominant thing, this is a quote from Farmer, the most dominant thing in my nature is that I must be who I am. regardless of the circumstances, the penalties, or the people involved, Farmer told Louis Kibbe, who was going to write a memoir on her. Unsatisfied with the expectations of the studio system and wanting to enhance her reputation as a serious actress, Farmer left Hollywood in mid-1937, and I just accidentally skipped it. So she left, like, basically Paramount, but she was still contracted with them. But she decided to go do more of, like, when you are on Broadway, more Broadway sets.
More stage?
She did summer stock on the East Coast, performing in Westchester, New York, and Westport, Connecticut. There, she attracted the attention of director Harold Clurman and playwright Clifford Odets, who invited her to appear in a 3-month production of Odets' play Golden Boy, produced by the Group Theater. Her performance at first received mixed reviews, with Time commenting that she had been miscast. Due to Farmer's box office appeal, however, the play became the biggest hit in the group's history. Part of that, they think maybe it's because she was an actress and then she was on the play. During the run of Golden Boy, Farmer began a romantic affair with Odets, but he was married to actress Louise Rayner and did not offer Farmer a commitment. Farmer felt betrayed when Odets suddenly ended their relationship, and then when the group chose another actress for its London run of the same role. An actress whose family helped secure funds for the play, so she came to believe that the group had used her drawing power selfishly to further the success of the play.
Yeah, like just using her name and star power because people know her.
So it left a bad taste with her.
Yeah.
She did 2 Broadway productions directed by Elia Kazan in 1939, but the reviews were not great, and ultimately the production ended. It didn't say that it was just because of her, but all around it sounds like the reviews were just kind of She subsequently accepted a role in the Broadway adaptation of Ernest Hemingway's The Fifth Column, for which she was scheduled to begin rehearsing in early 1940. During rehearsals, Farmer began binge drinking in an effort to alleviate her depression.
Because that always helps depression.
Yeah. She ultimately chose to withdraw from the production, resulting in a $1,500 fine from the Theater Guild for unprofessionalism.
Wow, that's a lot of money for like the 40s. That's a lot to me now. Dang.
Later that year, Paramount suspended her after she refused to accept a part in the film Take a Letter, Darling, and voided her contract. Meanwhile, so basically her life was going to shit. Meanwhile, her marriage to Erickson had disintegrated, and he began dating actress Margaret Hayes. Their divorce was finalized on June 12, 1942, and Erickson married Hayes the same day.
Oh my God. It's messy.
I mean, do keep in mind she was having at least one affair that has been noted, so
God.
Doesn't sound like they were a perfect match anyways, but on October 19th, 1942, Farmer was stopped by Santa Monica police for driving with her headlights on high beam in the wartime blackout zone that affected most of the West Coast.
Okay, I was like, ooh, high beams, but blackout zone on the West Coast. Okay, that's fair.
Some reports stated
we can see you, right?
Some reports stated she was unable to produce a driver's license and was verbally abusive to the officers.
That kind of checks out for her.
The police suspected her of being drunk.
That also
and she
checks
was jailed
out for her.
Overnight. Farmer was fined $500 and given a 180 days suspended sentence of her license.
Hold please. So she got fined $500 by the police, but $1,500 from the guild for unprofessionalism.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Which, let's just talk a little bit more about that, because to be honest, I thought people dropped out of plays all the time.
I mean, if you drop out because of like illness or whatever, but withdrawing for whatever reason, it also is probably written in the contract like if you don't give a certain amount of notice. But going back to
Couldn't
that
she
15,
just say like I was depressed
I don't
and
know what that
drinking?
conversation was. Who knows? But so $1,500 in 1940 is about $34,000 today.
Crazy.
I cannot imagine getting fined $34,000 for dropping out of a show. I wouldn't even make that much
No.
at the show.
Doesn't it seem nuts?
That's
Anyways.
crazy. Okay.
So she received a suspended sentence. 1942, her agent secured her a role in an independent film adaptation of John Steinbeck's Murder at Lattice. I think that's how you say it. Which was set to film in Mexico City. Upon arriving in Mexico, she discovered that the shooting script was unfinished and the production was never into fruition.
Oh.
So while in Mexico City, Farmer was allegedly charged with drunk and disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace. And she was forced by authorities to return to the United States.
They said get out.
Yeah. Upon returning to California, she found her Santa Monica home cleared of her possessions and inhabited by a strange family.
Who are you? What are you doing in my house? Where's all my stuff?
Yeah. Farmer later contended that her mother and sister-in-law had stripped the house and stored her belongings while she was gone. Her mother rented her a room at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Hollywood where she temporarily took residence.
So weird.
Yeah, Lillian sucks. Can you imagine being like, let me go clean out this house to rent it and make money off of this while she's in Mexico City?
You weren't home. No, you weren't using it. So I just figured that we could make some money off of it. I like where her head's at, but do better.
Yeah. Meanwhile, publicity of Frances Farmer's erratic behavior began to surface. And after several more arrests, committals to psychiatric institutions.
Really?
Farmer was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
You didn't tell me this was a famously insane episode.
I didn't really consider it a famously insane, but we can go ahead and add it to...
I'm gonna go with famously insane on this one.
In my mind, I was actually just doing this because of the Nirvana song, and then but yeah, it is totally a famously insane.
Okay, I'm here for it.
She's actually one of the most notable actresses for being insane.
And she's diagnosed paranoid schizophrenia.
Or not insane, and the man's just trying to keep her down.
Ooh.
We'll see. So, at the request of her family, particularly her mother, she was committed to institution in her home state of Washington, where she remained a patient until 1950.
So 8 years.
Yeah. So let's go into that just a little bit more. Okay. Farmer behaved erratically on January 13th, 1943. So we're just going to dive into how that happened.
How she got
Police went
put into the...
Okay. Yeah, I'm just diving in a little bit further.
Okay.
Police went to the Knickerbocker to arrest her, but she was not there to surrender peacefully. There's actually images of her, kicking cops in the face and, kicking her feet up.
Oh
and then
God.
She's they're trying to pull her out the door, and she's they're literally carrying her, and she's yeah, it will freaking not leave this place.
Like when a cat doesn't want to take a bath.
Yeah, she looks exactly like that. Beautiful blonde lady, just fuck off. Yeah. At her hearing the following morning, Farmer behaved apparently erratically again. She claimed that the police had violated her rights, demanded an attorney, and threw an inkwell at the judge. It's not funny. Don't do that. When asked about her drinking habits, Farmer told the judge, I put liquor in my milk, in my coffee, and in my orange. She also admitted to regularly drinking Benzedrine.
What's that?
I didn't look it up, but it sounds... So I'm pretty sure it is
Like a mouthwash
and
or
like
something?
anything that makes you it's in anything I think that makes you like sleepy or gets you kind of high. So like
Benzedrine.
I think like allergy medicine can have it. What is it?
So Benzedrine was a brand name for amphetamine sulfate. It was used to treat many different conditions from the 1930s to the 1970s. Misuse of the drug eventually led to a major decrease in production and tighter control of the drug. Today, amphetamine is used to treat ADHD, narcolepsy, and obesity. So is it amphetamine?
Okay. It still is around, though. I knew that.
It more controlled substances.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The judge sentenced her to 180 days in jail. While being taken from the courtroom, Farmer knocked down a policeman and bruised another. Along with a matron, she ran to a phone booth where she tried to call her attorney but was subdued by the police. When they physically carried her away, she shouted, "Have you ever had a broken heart?"
What?
Yeah. But like, honestly, she was born a broken heart. Her mom didn't love her.
Her mom did her dirty. But I mean, her other siblings turned out okay, right?
I didn't look them up. They're not famous. I don't know. No,
I never heard of them.
I don't think any of them turned out like great or not great. I think they all, as a whole, lived very similarly in the world. It's just not all of them were constantly followed by a camera. So, through the efforts of her sister-in-law, a deputy sheriff in LA, and a deputy sheriff in LA, Farmer was able to avoid jail time and instead transferred to the psychiatric ward of LA General Hospital.
So interesting.
Yeah. This is where she was diagnosed with
this paranoid schizophrenia.
No, it gets later, but she was diagnosed with manic depressive psychosis.
Okay.
Think of all the women that have been diagnosed manic depressive psychosis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's so many women out there that, especially like if you had a feeling or were disagreeable, they freaking
you were manic
put that
depression.
On you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they transferred her to San Fernando Valley, where that's where psychiatrists diagnosed her with paranoid schizophrenia. She was administered insulin shock therapy, which was then a standard.
Shock therapy?
Yeah. These side effects included intense nausea. Her family later claimed that they did not consent to the treatment, but she had been on insulin shock therapy for over 90 days.
That's over half her 180 days.
So you're telling me none of those family members were like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on here?" And then they're trying to claim later.
You don't seem yourself.
We didn't consent to treatment. Yeah, whatever. So Lillian, the golden mother of all, traveled to California and began a lengthy legal battle to take formal guardianship of Frances from the state of California.
That sounds like a money grab situation to me. It's giving very much leave Britney alone.
Yeah. Although, I was thinking the same thing. Although several psychiatrists testified that Farmer needed further treatment, her mother prevailed.
Wow.
And she won. The two of them left LA by train on September 13th, 1943. So she was now the guardian of Frances, Lillian, the person who could not have time for her babies when they were little.
Yeah, now she got
Yeah, apparently. Farmer moved in with her parents in West Seattle, but her mother and her fought bitterly.
Does not surprise me.
Farmer wrote in an autobiography, "Mama and I had fought, argued, threatened, and screamed until it had finally come down to a climax of two exhausted women sitting across from each other in a small, cluttered kitchen. We were enemies. We had grown tired of pretending." So Yeah, they were, yeah. After one violent physical attack by Frances.
She's so aggressive.
I don't see it that way. Lillian.
Getting physical? I mean.
To her mom.
Also, she knocked over a policeman. She's pretty physical as a person.
I just think
she threw something at the judge.
Okay, being physical is not great, but also being put in a psychiatric unit when you should not be there.
Well, she was going to go to jail, but they had changed it into the psychiatric.
Her sister did. Yeah. So Farmer had a violent physical attack on Lillian, and Lillian had her committed to Western State Hospital in Steilacoom, Washington. 3 months later, in early July 1944, she was pronounced completely cured and released.
Of her schizophrenia?
Completely cured.
So she didn't actually have schizophrenia?
100% she did not.
I'm so confused.
I don't think she was ever schizophrenic. I think they wanted to administer insulin treatment on her.
As a form of control?
Yeah.
All right.
So shortly after her release on July 15th, Farmer was arrested for vagrancy in Antioch, California. Several months later, July 15th, it's my birthday too. I'm going to think about this for the rest of my life. Like, Frances Farmer was arrested today. Several months later, on May 18, 1945, Lillian filed for a sanity hearing for Farmer. Because she ran away from... Sorry, this computer keeps skipping. She ran away from her aunt's house. So her mom... So her mom was like, let's do a sanity hearing. Okay, so it's up here somewhere. Yeah. The hearing was held on May 21st, during which the court ruled that Farmer was to be recommitted to Western State Hospital. She remained an inmate of the hospital for the next 5 years, with the exception of a brief parole in 1946. Throughout her intermittent stay at the hospital, Farmer remained in the high security ward.
She was so physical.
For the hospital's violent patients. Her treatment at Western State was subject to significant public and critical discussion in and after years of her death.
When did she die?
We'll talk about that later. What led to all of her outbursts? This is my own thought. To me, there's a lot of speculation around mistreatment, and we'll get into it. And many people believe she wasn't mentally ill. Like, people today still talk about this. Like, a lot of people do not think she was at all mentally ill. They think her mom was a terrible person.
Yeah, not a good mom.
They also think that a lot of people didn't like that she was an opinionated woman in the 40s, 50s.
Very independent, strong-willed.
Yeah. So let's go into some of these other events after this all happened. So Jessica Lange, after her death, actually Jessica Lange, do you know who she is?
Yeah, I love her.
Crazy older neighbor in American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
She tells the story. She plays an actress telling the story of Frances Farmer in the movie Frances in 1982. It's a portrait of a woman and an artist who is systematically destroyed, but goes down howling and fighting to the bitter ends. Many people became obsessed with Farmer due to Lange's movie. So in June, I just wanted to note, this is like, she really played such a good thing. And this is just part of where people's obsession really started. But in June 1953, upon discovering her discharge, Farmer requested that her mother's conservatorship be lifted with the Superior Court. So they did. And with her freedom restored, Farmer took a job sorting laundry at the Olympic Hotel in Seattle, the same hotel where she had been feted in 1936 at Come and Get It's premiere. While working at the Olympic Hotel, a coworker set Farmer up on a blind date with Alfred H. Lobley, a 45-year-old city utility worker. The two married in April 1954, and he moved in with Lillian, who was growing senile and needed assistance at home.
How old was Lillian at that point then?
No idea.
Okay.
Older. She had old enough to have 4
apparently.
kids and then go senile, yeah. Within the year, Lillian was sent to a nursing home, after which Farmer's marriage to Lobley began to also disintegrate. Farmer remained estranged with her sister, actually until Lillian's death from a stroke in March 1955. After their mother's death, Farmer and her sister, Edith, moved to Portland, Oregon to be near their father, who died also on July 15th, 1956, my birthday, also of a stroke.
Weird.
During this time, Farmer and Edith, so her sister Edith, occasionally corresponded. Edith claimed that on occasion, Francis would visit her in Portland, where the two spent an afternoon at the grotto and a Catholic sanctuary. They had visited this sanctuary with their father. Edwards later asked Farmer, in an interview, Farmer was later asked about her supposed alcoholism. She said other stories, they said that, and she said, no, I was never an alcoholic, in adamant denial that also applied to Edwards' question about dope. So she's saying, like, nope, I wasn't an alcoholic and I was not hooked on dope.
I was not addicted to anything.
Yep, nothing. During the early and mid-1960s, Farmer was in residence at Purdue University and spent the majority of her free time painting and writing poetry. She attempted to start a small cosmetics company, but although the products were successfully field tested, the project failed. And in 1968, she formally converted to Roman Catholicism, as she claimed to have felt God in her life, and since that she would have to find disciplined avenue of faith and worship. Farmer had a great affection for St. Joan of Arc Church and attended Mass there regularly. During this period, she also gave up drinking and began considering writing an autobiography. She negotiated a collaboration with Louise Kribbe, who encouraged her to tape record her life story. Apparently, these tapes went missing.
Oh, interesting.
The experience was emotionally jarring for Farmer, specifically the revisiting of medical records. And then the book went unfinished, but it was used to write a release autobiography called Where There Really Be a Morning. In the spring of 1970, Farmer was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, which was attributed to a life of heavy smoking. She was hospitalized for 3 weeks before being sent home for a brief period. She died of the cancer at Indianapolis Community Hospital August 1st, 1970.
That girl moved around.
She is interred at Oakland Memorial Gardens Cemetery in Fishers, Indiana. In the years after Farmer's death, her treatment at Western State was the subject of serious discussion and speculation. So Farmer's autobiography, Will There Really Be Morning, described a brutal incarceration. In the book, Farmer claims she had been brutalized and mistreated in numerous ways. Some of the claims included being forced to eat her own feces and act as a sex slave for male doctors and orderlies.
Oh.
Yeah. Farmer recounted her stay in the state asylum as unbearable terror. And then she said she was even gnawed on by rats and poisoned by tainted food. She was chained in padded cells, strapped to straitjackets, and half drowned in ice bath.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Jean Ratcliffe, a close friend and companion of Farmer Strange, who wrote Will There Really Be a Morning? There's controversy that exists around this. About these claims.
Mm-hmm.
The portions of the book where Ratcliffe had edited or ghost wrote, Ratcliffe claimed she only wrote the final chapter of Farmer's death. But some people disagree, and there's a lot of things you can sift through that are like, this is untrue about Frances Farmer, this is true about her. And some people think that Jean Ratcliffe had wrote part of this publication to embellish things.
Yeah. I mean, I could see the embellishment. That's usually, it makes it more interesting in itself.
In 1978, the Seattle Film Reviewer published that film, Frances, and allegedly in that movie, Frances had been the subject of a transorbital lobotomy. So this was obviously played and put in there. They did do a court case against this because there was a disagreement, and they said that they fictionalized this portion of the biography.
Mm-hmm.
And Farmer's family, former lovers, and ex-husbands all denied or did not confirm that the procedure took place. Farmer's sister Edith said that the hospital asked her parents permission to perform a lobotomy, but Frances's father was horrified by the notion and threatened legal action if they tried to guinea pig operations on her.
Yeah.
So basically, the speculations are all around, did she have a lobotomy?
Yeah.
Did she have an alcohol problem? Did she have a drug problem?
Yeah, a smoking problem.
Was she abused? Yeah. Was she abused at the hospital? And what did this do to her? So I just want to mention, she's in a lot of pop culture. She's really popular for being crazy, or maybe not crazy.
Not crazy.
In 1982, obviously, Lestrange played her in Frances, and she's also in music. So there's the metal song on Waking Up the House on Fire by the Culture Club. Mm-hmm. Paint by Numbers, and it's parentheses, Song for Frances. I Thought You'd Be Taller, 1984 by Romanofsky and Phillips. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle by Nirvana. Frances Farmer by Patterson Hood. Rats, Rats, Rats by Deftones. Uh-huh. And there's more. There's a French singer that wrote about her as well. The Netflix original series Mindhunter. Mm-hmm. The character version, which I have to say, of Edmund Kemper, actually states Farmer was lobotomized.
Oh, interesting.
And Farmer was also referenced in 2022 in the marvelous Miss Maisel episode, Billy Jones and the Orgy Lamps, describing full-on Frances Farmer, mental breakdown. So I just want to note, she's really popular, but I think in the closing remarks, Frances Farmer was a lady before her time. I think she's a real leading lady that was very opinionated and wanted things maybe her way. Yes, you pointed to violence, but I don't think all of her violence was unjust personally. And I think she really wanted to dive into characters and believe what she portrayed was closer than, and then not be pushed around.
Yeah.
And then I said possibly Blake Lively-esque. I'm not really sure. I don't keep up with any of that, but stuff I see, possibly. And then I said, what do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know.
You don't know about Frances Farmer?
I think she could have had some, issues for herself. And I do think that if you're beautiful and they put you in a mental institution in the 30s or 40s, I could see you being used and abused. I could see that. So I wouldn't necessarily discredit her. I don't think she got a lobotomy, though. Because they didn't say she turned into like a different person. It's just very mysterious. And
although she did turn into a different person.
But she didn't get all calm and weird.
Yeah, she did.
No, I don't know.
At the end of her years, she was calm and religious.
But
returned to Roman Catholicism.
Yeah, but that could just be she was like, I'm gonna die soon, so I'm gonna get it right. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Fascinating though. I had no idea who this woman was at all.
There you go. Now you do.
I do.
One other person in the world that's crazy. Maybe. I don't think she was crazy.
I don't think so either. I think it could have been made up in a way.
I think her mom basically fought to put her in the asylum.
Probably. Well, she wanted control, I think.
Knowing that she could control her, which is just crazy to me because she didn't even want her kids in the first place.
Well, I don't think it comes to the person. I think it comes to the assets.
Right.
If she had assets. I don't know what she had at the time. So.
Here.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments. And thank you for listening to today's episode. Anyway, we'll see you next week on That's Peculiar. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of That's Peculiar. Tune in next week for a brand new episode, and please comment, follow, and share. If you have a peculiar story you would like to hear or share, send us an email to perpetuallypeculiarpod@gmail.com.